Science. Okay.
We chilling in the windy city with Mark and Mindy.
I really wonder if other people that do shows have to go through all those technical difficulties and delays getting on. I don't know if it's the internet. I don't know if it's Spreaker. Once again, I ain't pointing fingers, so I'll just point them at everyone. Fuck you, vamp agencies, and fuck you, vamps. Let's get it in. Like, comment, share, and download the Golden Debate Show.
Hit 'em with it.
Science. Jobs. Okay. Jobs and jobs. That's science.
Like, comment, share, and download the story to get the word of the show out. We pay these bills around the up.
Around here, down here, one of these
Science.
It's disgusting. Disgusting. I don't know. Don't make no sense about it.
Here lights up.
Golden Debate Show.
Jobs and jobs.
So let's get it in right now.
Down there's one of those catacombs. This other guy looks like, I don't know.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of News in 2 Minutes, bringing you the news that you need to know every day.
Let's vote for jobs.
Health authorities in Hong Kong have confirmed the region's first human case of the H5N9 variation of the avian flu in a young Indonesian woman who is currently quarantined in critical condition within one of the country's hospitals. Scientists are suspecting that others within the area may have contracted the disease, with an associate professor of infectious disease stating that multiple citizens within the woman's contact group are beginning to experience symptoms. The city has reportedly activated its virus containment plan while authorities try to quell the spread by implementing a 3-level response system that is set up to deal with potential flu pandemics. Data from recovery experts within the Philippines reminds us just how long the survival aspect of a regional emergency can continue, with new reports showing that over 14 million people have been directly affected by Typhoon Haiyan, with many of them unprepared for the sheer level of catastrophe and breakdown of society that followed the storm. Information gathered from local authorities shows that over 200,000 people remain in emergency shelters and government-run camps, while nearly 3 million people continue to be in need of life-saving food assistance and agricultural support. Data that we've compiled from survivors on the ground in Tacloban as well as across the nation shows that citizens that had a plan to leave and were prepared for strong storms and long-term power outages are continuing to fare worlds better than those that have relied on ongoing and sometimes stalled recovery efforts. The biology professor at a South Korean university has carried the words of other experts in the field, stating that the disaster at Fukushima is at least 7 times greater than what happened in Chernobyl, and that the world is currently experiencing a slow route to what may be viewed in the future as a regional nuclear holocaust. The professor goes on to say that nearly 70% of Japan's territory is polluted and that close to 20% of Japanese land, including Tokyo, is contaminated with highly toxic radiation that will see
a lot of people want to send blankets or water. Just send your cash.
Al-Qaeda-linked rebels fighting against the Syrian government have
a lot of people want to send blankets or water. Just send your cash.
Millions of Syrians are struggling with survival as checkpoints and delays have all but stopped aid deliveries within the country. The Prime Minister for the Ukraine is warning that anti-government protesters are planning a coup. Russia will begin deploying new anti-missile systems in response to a Western-led missile shield across Europe. Fierce battles that are ongoing between Indian and Pakistani forces have been reported in Jammu and Kashmir. And a 5.5 in the Philippines, followed by a 5.3 in Japan, completes today's Quake Watch. And that's it for this episode of News in 2 Minutes. Check back tomorrow for more news that the aware need the most. This week's News in 2 Minutes is brought to you by Silver-Investor.com, home of the Morgan Report, a global resource for serious metals investors. Visit Silver-Investor.com
and sign up. Blankets or water. Just send your cash.
I really appreciate it so much. Thank you for your time.
One more question to two heroes. Luke Rudowski, my hero dog,
Science.
Ride, and Jim Mars. Can you guys talk a little bit about both 9/11 and the slaughter of JFK?
So Luke Rudowski was interviewing Jim Mars, and then some guy that was just in the audience started interviewing them. But they ended up rolling with it. So I'll play these two clips.
Well, I will say this, in order to brainwash somebody, this is all well documented, well known. You have to break people's wills down. You have to break them down so you can rebuild them in the image that you want. And the fastest, easiest way to do that is to traumatize them. Okay? In fact, this is as old as history. This is what happens when you take a young kid and boy or girl, put them in the military. First thing they do is shave off all their hair, put them in a uniform just like everybody else, destroy their individuality and build them back as a good troop. And that's basically traumatizing them. On 9/11, this whole nation was traumatized. And right after that, then they built us back in this national security state, this fear-based society where we've put up with anything. The Nazis, at the height of their power, they didn't dare stop Germans on the street or in a public place and make them strip down and grope their genitals. But we put up with it because we've been traumatized and we've been reconditioned to turn our backs on the very principles that founded this country.
And to me, the programming, especially on television, right after 9/11, all over the country, especially in New York, for days and weeks, all they showed was death and destruction, towers coming down, thousands of people dying right in front of us, towers just exploding, and then people from the Muslim faith. Right. Towers coming down, people from the Muslim faith. Towers coming down, people from the Muslim faith, over and over and over. They programmed us so well that we were just conditioned not only to our emotions,
there's other guys that they look like. I don't know.
Do everything
this
in
don't
our
make
power
no sense to everybody.
Go support the government because they're the good guys. They're going to help us. But that programming, you know, that I don't think that ever has happened throughout history where just any form of media is just taken over by those two principles: death and destruction, blame. Go get these guys.
To a more limited extent here in Dallas, where Al Sharpton
Jobs, jobs, and jobs.
That's when America started to talk about gun control after Jack got shot.
Hey,
That's when we went to Vietnam.
Hey, I grew up in Texas. We had guns. We took guns to school. Nobody shot anybody. It's not the guns. In fact, I got a shotgun at home, and you know what?
Well,
I loaded
like
it,
to
set
say,
it by
open
my
minds,
door.
not empty
It's
ones,
been
because often
6 months now,
when
and it
people
hadn't
don't
shot
talk
anybody.
about things,
I guess I have a defective
it
shotgun.
fucks it up. But then nowadays, you got to be either politically correct when fuck shit up,
Fear-based program,
or people do some Alex Jones shit, like I often say, and then fear-based shit, like they're kind of talking about.
Herman
So
Goering,
either which way, we're
head
not
of the
talking
Nazi
about issues
Luftwaffe,
because we're either worried
at
about sports
Nuremberg,
or we're all
he laid
divided
it out.
on
He said the people don't want war, but they do what the leaders tell them, and to get them to go to war is very easy. Said you just tell them they're being attacked, and then you call anyone who tries to
down there in one of those catacombs. There's other guys that they look like. I don't know.
Exactly what
this
we're
don't make no
going
sense to everybody.
To me, fear is the biggest weapon, not only against us, but also against them. To me, the biggest secret that I think a lot of people don't understand is that these so-called ruling elites, these so-called powerful men that are the 0.001% of the powerful people in the world, the biggest secret is that these men are more afraid of us than we are of them. And a lot of us don't know that, and a lot of us are afraid of these people, and we look up to them, and we praise them up, and we make them something they're not. But when you actually look them in the eyes, when you face them one-on-one, stare down at them, and tell them, we know what you're doing. Your lies are not going to work. We are waking up. They fold. They run away. They cower. They're afraid. And you could see that human potential, that human power of how exactly afraid they are of us. And if we stop being afraid, there's nothing that can
I'm just trying to wake you up, everybody. I'm trying to wake you up.
Exactly right. And the good news is there's more of us than there are them. And the thing is, you notice in very recent years now, all of a sudden police are wearing black. They're wearing shields. They're carrying tasers. They're getting militarized. They've got armored vehicles. You know, these ruling elite are running scared. And did they just do this overnight? No, they did that in reaction to a growing consciousness among the public now who are beginning to catch on to them. Not everybody. The people who got the steady paycheck and had the 401ks, they're still going trying to tell themselves that everything's okay, but it's not. All right.
And if you look at, human psychology, whenever you see someone hurt somebody else, whenever they're angry, whenever they're frustrated, whenever they're just filled with that negative emotion, it ultimately always comes back to the basic principle of fear. So that, to me, is why these ruling elites are doing so many bad things to us, is because they really are fearful themselves of what they did, fearful of us. They want to have everything for themselves, and that's why they act out, because deep down
like we said, we should have open
that
minds
anger
and
is
everyone
really
to talk,
just
but then
fear. It's really
it
just
kind of gets a
insecurity.
little
It's really
crazy.
just a
I like
basic
that
small
shit.
level
Some people
vibrational
don't like
energy
that.
that they can't
Tell
deal
them
with.
to go, because the next clip, they start to get into it even more crazy.
Golden Debate Show live with Carl Calzone, Two-Tone Tortellini.
Jobs, jobs, and jobs. Let's go for jobs.
He's a jackass.
I've read some of the research, but I haven't really done my homework on it. But I know there's so much information, and I know there's so much disinformation. But what to you is one of the most important pieces of information that really people should know when it comes
I'm just trying to wake you up, everybody. I'm trying to wake you
When I was
up.
a young man, young reporter, we were told there's really no such things as UFOs, okay? They were just misidentified aircraft or perhaps hallucinations.
Jobs,
or maybe
jobs,
psychosis.
and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
Wow, what a big story. Heretofore, diagnosed contagious mass psychosis, but you don't hear that anymore, and that's because with the advent of the camcorder and the cell phone camera, you go up on the internet, you type in UFOs, and you spend the rest of your life looking at pictures of UFOs. So that argument's over. They're real. They're here. The question becomes, what are they? Who are they? What do they want? And I have a whole book on that is now, I've been told, is the top-selling nonfiction book on UFOs in the world. It's been translated into about a dozen languages, and it's called Alien Agenda. What is the alien agenda? Now, the thing that I found most striking, and this is the subject of my latest book, Our Occulted History, which goes back and shows that there is
Shut up already. It's just
very
science.
compelling, if not overwhelming, evidence for the idea of ancient astronauts. In other words, people who came to this planet from somewhere else thousands of years ago, established great civilizations, gave us the secrets of law, finance, farming, nutrition. They even taught us how to make beer, God bless them.
Science.
And so it goes all the way back. UFO is not a modern issue. It didn't start with the crash at Roswell in 1947.
Jobs,
it goes all the way
jobs,
back.
and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
Flying through the air that picks him up and takes him places. Hello. And then it even goes back further than that to the ancient Sumerian tablets, which are still in existence, and tell us about the arrival of folks who came from another world, came from the heavens, and taught them all this stuff. And this holds true not only just in ancient Sumeria, but also in Australia, the Aborigines, the Native American tribes, South Americans, Incas, the Aztecs, they all tell the same story. And it's time that we start thinking about this in realistic terms, because what I'm going to tell you is that you'll never have a complete, accurate picture of what's happening in the world if you discard the issue of UFOs, because you just threw out a big piece of the puzzle.
Yes. And I feel like, we look at all the history in ancient civilizations. We see the writings. We see the historical context of people talking about aliens and UFOs. I feel like even in today's day and age, it's kind of like a taboo subject. I feel like I can't even comfortably bring it up or even, put all my time to it, because I'll be labeled as this crazy tinfoil hat wearing crazy guy.
Crazy talk.
Like
coming sharing down the
crazy pills.
What do you have? What information do you have to battle that label that's being pushed on anyone who talks about just aliens and UFOs?
Well, I know exactly what you're talking about, because I've been there, done that. Okay, at some of the JFK
I'm just trying to wake you up,
for several
everybody.
years, I was
trying to wake you up
because I wrote about UFOs. And of course, I tried to explain to people, I'm a journalist, I write about what interests people, and there's no question that a lot of people are seriously interested in UFOs. But again, you have to ask yourself, why are you hesitant to talk about them? Well, because nobody wants to talk about them. Why does nobody want to talk about them? Because you go back and you find that the federal government, the United States, certain agencies, way back in the 50s, early 50s.
So this is Jim Mars and Luke Wadowski, and We Are Change. Tell them what show that this is
laid down a policy of denial and ridicule.
Science.
This don't make no sense, everybody.
Vampire near you.
Kmart opened her doors 6 a.m. Thanksgiving morning
your boy Reverend
to a
Mannings.
crowd of godless
That ain't
people
gold.
camping out for more than 3 days to be
Down
the
there in
first
one of
in
those
line to the
catacombs.
altar of the church.
I'm just trying to wake you up, everybody.
Followed by the church of J.C. Penney, Sears, Walmart, Target, Macy's, and Pizza Hut. These are troubling signs that America has become increasingly secular and selfish, with a revival type of consumerism spirit rather than love or worship of God. The merchandise priest of Wall Street has won the hearts of those who once preferred family and worship of God only on Thanksgiving Day. Under Obama, unemployment, underemployment, and sustained poverty has been surpassed only by the Great Depression of the 1930s. Homeless shelters for women and children, food stamps, and soup kitchens have replaced the income once earned on full-time and part-time jobs. The middle class has fallen into the category of the poor, and the poor have fallen into poverty. And those in poverty have become a new breed of exiles from the American dream. Not surprisingly, the Cathedral of Wall Street at the Vatican of Greed has created more billionaires in the last decade than millionaires in the same decade a half a century ago. Soon, our streets will be filled with children born and raised in shelters and poverty created by the government. Obama's PAPs have become the center of hope and nurture for black people and poor people.
Jobs, jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
Many poor and all black people foolishly believe that the right PAP gives milk and the left PAP gives honey.
There was a study published in the October 2013 issue of the Archives of Sexual Behavior, and researchers from the University of Texas at Austin wanted to look into the sexual behavior of men and women to figure out what they regret the most. Intercourse remorse. No, come on, I came up with that.
I'm just trying to wake you up, everybody.
So they noticed that men and women have completely different regrets, and so let me go ahead and read you what the women in the study. And by the way, they looked at 3 different studies. Okay, so this was a meta-analysis.
Girls like, oh my God,
about the women. They found that the most common regrets for women were losing their virginity to the wrong partner.
Now there's one of those calico.
Cheating on a present
other guys, they look like, I don't know.
Moving too fast sexually, that was 20%. Okay, so there's a lot of regret about, oh, I had sex too early, I didn't have sex with the right person, I should feel bad about it. There's a lot of guilt in those answers, which I find interesting.
No, it's true. I feel the same way. I had sex too early and too often. When's the last time a guy said that?
No, they're talking about with another person.
Yeah. I see. Ooh, that hurt, Johnny Pie. That hurt.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so
and as Anna's about to tell you, that the guys never say that.
Yeah. So let's take a look at what the men regret. So coming in at number 1 was failing to make a move on a prospective sexual partner. That's 27%.
Failing to make a move on a prospective sexual partner, which, by the way, was the entire female population.
Yeah. Coming in next is not being more sexually adventurous in their youth. That's 23%. And then finally, not being more sexually adventurous when single.
I see a pattern here.
That's 19%. So for the men, they're like, oh, when I was young, I should have had more sex with more people. And if she showed me she was a little interested, I should have been aggressive, right? And the women are like, oh, I had too much sex. I should have waited for the one that I love. And a lot of that has to do with societal expectations, sexual norms. Women are supposed to be more reserved, where men are supposed to be sexual deviants, right? That's the kind of messaging that we're given on a regular basis.
This reminds me of that scene in that Woody Allen movie where he's seeing his psychiatrist and his girlfriend seeing their psychiatrist, and she's like, oh, we're constantly having sex like 3 or 4 times a week, and then Woody goes, we almost never have sex, like 3 or 4 times a week only. So this is a lot like that, you know, and you can't talk to your wife and stuff, you talk to your girlfriend and fun sex with it, for my Christmas. So, although I don't know how, this is the second hour, I don't know, I did talk my wife into trying anal, and she said that we had to quit because it was hurting. Apparently the strap-on was pinching her. The point I'm going to make. Do you know what I'm talking about? The deviant? Yeah. I'll get down the stairs. Bounce to the left of me. Jokers to the right. Stuck in the middle with you. You're stuck in the middle with you. And I'm wondering what it is I should do. It's so hard to get the smile from my face. Losing control, yeah, I'm all over the place. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I
Big Brother can now hack into your computer without having ever touched the device, even if the device has never been connected to the internet. CNET, a very popular tech site, is reporting that a new kind of malware jumps the air barrier using audio. What this means is that Big Brother, the government, your friends at the National Spying Agency can remotely access your computer by using inaudible signals that are then picked up by the built-in microphone, which then grant them access to the device. Now, this is just really worse than anything out of Orwell's 1984 dystopian novel. This is quite surprising. I think I've heard it all. Something like this happens, but now that I'm digesting this, it makes perfect sense. And of course, the software companies, Apple, Microsoft, most likely put some code into the computers so that somebody can then use this kind of device, this kind of method to access any device that they want to. Up to 65 feet. These people have tested this, and they say it goes a greater distance, can be achieved by forming what they call an acoustical mesh network with the addition of additional devices nearby. So what that means is that they can probably activate anybody's cell phone to then use their microphone and the speaker to relay these inaudible signals. Now, I have a source that has worked at Qualcomm in San Diego, a very popular tech company, who said that they have built software and hardware into these cell phones so that a cell phone can pick up your voice print. Okay, we all know, not everybody knows this, it's becoming more and more known. I mean, it's old news, 7 years old now, that the government can access and activate your cell phones remotely, even though they're powered down. So what my source told me was that remote devices, cell phones, that not even yours, let's say you're a target.
When you begin to look at this way our government operates and the words that are used and the symbols, you begin to see that the most powerful law in the world, and let me explain to you this, there are two basic kinds of law on the earth. One is called civil law. It goes back to a Latin word civili. The Ilias were an ancient war of the gods. Civili means the people of God. So we have something called civil law. Civil law is a law of the land. But in every country, the land is different. So that you can do things in America you can't do in Russia. You can do things in China you can't do in Africa. Because the civil law is based on the culture of the people who live on the land. But there's a far, far more powerful law that the kings and the powerful men of this planet live by. And it has nothing to do with civil law. It's called the law of water. Because on the earth there's only two things, land and water. There's 3 times more water than there is earth, so the law of water is 3 times more powerful than the law of civil law. It's called the law of the high seas, the law of water. This is why the Vatican is called the Holy See. The sea is considered holy by the masters of this planet, the waters of the earth. And consequently, based on that idea that the law of the sea is the most powerful law on the earth, it's referred to as banking law. The law of money is the law of the sea, the cash flow. And once you understand that you can get a credit card in China and use it in Africa, you can open up a bank account in New Zealand and use it in Alaska. Why? Because it's banking. And now you're talking money. Consequently, money is run around the world in one operation. Banking is one thing. Once you understand that the law of the land is the people's law.
We'll creep across that,
their culture,
that delegation visiting. Take a look at these. I want one. We've got one in the studio. Look at it coming in on me. Imagine ordering something online and it arriving on your doorstep about half an hour later. Well, the online retailer Amazon says it's working on technology that could make that certainly a reality. They're testing unmanned drones called octocopters, which could deliver packages weighing up to about 2.3 kilograms. That's about 5 pounds to customers within 30 minutes of them placing the order. Now, according to some analysts, this technology certainly could be the next big thing, delivering everything,
the captain if he can
everything
leave.
from pizza,
If the captain
kebabs,
says yes, and he most likely is not going to, but if he says yes, that means you have the liberty. You pull liberty. You don't have freedom. America is not the land of the free and the home of the brave. We're not free or brave. We're ill-informed, entertained, and totally ignorant to the powers that be on this earth and how it works. Let me give you an example of how the law of water works. When you go into a court, why do you have to go to court? You play tennis and basketball on a court. The whole idea in a court is to put the ball back in the other guy's court. So consequently, this team stands up and throws the ball at that team. And that team stands up and throws the ball back to them. And the judge sits here, and that's what he is, a judge. He's the referee. He doesn't care who wins or loses. Somebody's going to pay. And he's going to get paid, so he doesn't care who wins or loses. He's only there to make sure that the game is played correctly. It's called commerce.
There's now over 25 feet of water where there was once city streets and thriving neighborhoods.
If you remember this clip, this is Mike Myers.
They portray us in the media. If you see a black family, it says they're looting. If you see a white family, it says they're looking for food. And you know, it's been 5 days because most of the people are black. And even for me to complain about, I would be a hypocrite because I've tried to turn away from the TV because it's too hard to watch. I've even been shopping before even giving a donation. So now I'm calling my business manager right now to see what is the biggest amount I can give, and just to imagine if I was down there, and those are my people down there. So anybody out there that wants to do anything that we can help with the setup, the way America is set up to help the poor, the black people, the less well off as slow as possible. I mean, this is Red Cross is doing everything they can. We already realize a lot of the people that could help are at war right now, fighting another way, and they've given them permission to go down and shoot us.
And subtle, but in even many ways more profoundly devastating, is the lasting damage to the survivors' will to rebuild and remain in the area. The destruction of the spirit of the people of southern Louisiana and Mississippi may end up being the most tragic loss of all.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
States and America as a country. The United States is a privately owned corporation. It's a privately owned company. The corporation headquarters is in Washington, D.C. You also need to understand that Maryland is Mary Land, and that Virginia gives us our word virgin or vagina. Virginia, virgin, Mary Land. The two together is a center of power, Virgin Mary. Virginia, Mary Land. What does this have to do with anything? Well, that's the center of power in America under the Virgin Mary.
We don't got it like that. When I tell you only 7 black billionaires, look at that marginalization, and we feel like we happy because me and Rick Ross got a Maybach, or I got a Sprint outside, or a couple of us, or they put a black president. Man, let me tell you something about George Bush and oil money and Obama and no money. People want to say Obama can't make these moves or he's not executing. That's because he ain't got those connections. Black people don't have the same level of connections as Jewish people. Black people don't have the same connection as oil people. You know we don't know nobody that got a nice house. You know we don't know nobody with paper like that we could go to when we down. You know that could just put us back and put us in a corporation. You know we ain't in a situation. Can you guarantee that your daughter can get a job at this radio station? But if you own this radio station, you could guarantee that. Have the same level of connections as Jewish people.
Pooling their resources through an emergency network hookup to keep you informed of all developments.
We out, everybody.
Goodbye, Golden people. Thanks for listening to The Golden Show.
We have more for you, but we gotta go.
Jobs, jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
He's a jackass.
Hey, Gold, how's it going?
It's dark. I cannot see you. Come closer. Hello?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, man. What's going on? Hi. What's the good word there? Wise guy. I'm tied to it with a 3-foot rope. So pretty much my options are limited, you fucking wise head. What's going on, fellas? No. That's cocksucker. Fucking passed out. He was drinking since this morning. Like 3 pints of fucking Jimmy Bean. Fucking whacked out of his stuff.
Hey, by the way, Gold, this is our friend Ron.
Salutation.
Wow.